Good afternoon and welcome. This is Debbie Oldham in Governance Services. Under Agenda Item 1, Councillor Hutchison was nominated as Chair prior to the start of the meeting. Are all members agreeable? I'll take your silence as yes. So thank you. Councillor Hutchison is now formally elected as Chair. Over to you, Chair.
Thanks, Debbie. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this remote hearing of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name's Councillor Hutchison and I'll be chairing today's hearing. Before I proceed further, could I remind everyone that today's meeting is being streamed live on the City Council's YouTube channel. Could I ask, please, following members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves? We have Councillor Flynn.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon. Billy Flynn, Councillor for Adel and Wharfdale.
And Councillor Marshall Cuttle.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Abigail Marshall Cuttle, Councillor representing Little London Woodhouse and the City Centre. Thank
you. And I'd like to start the hearing today by confirming that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee meets the requirements of the Council's Constitution, even though members of the panel are in remote attendance. While items today will be fully discussed as usual, remote attendance requires a few slight changes as how we manage the debate. Therefore, can all attendees mute their microphone unless I invite them to speak? This will avoid disruption from background noise. And can all participants please keep their cameras on during the hearing? All participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to public observers who will be involved in the proceedings. So I could invite Legal Services, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Philippa Murray. I'm a solicitor in the Legal Services Department of Leeds City Council. I'm supported by my fellow solicitor, Robert Brown, also a member of Leeds City Council Legal Services, and I'm here to advise the committee this afternoon.
Thanks, Philippa. And moving on to entertainment licensing.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew, part of Entertainment Licensing, and today I'm supported by Samantha Longfellow-Pennicott.
Thanks, Matthew. And Governance Services.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Oldham. I'm from Governance Services and I'm clerk to the subcommittee today.
Thank you. And can I ask the applicant, Mr. Ositelu, if you can introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Titilaya Oshitelu. You can call me Titi for short. I'm the owner and director of Afro Chops. I'm also the DPS, so the designated or the license holder for the premises.
Thank you. And then I think we've got the applicant's representative. Is that Mr. Nixon?
Yes, good afternoon, Mike Nixon. I don't know what's happened to my video here. I don't normally look like that, so hopefully you can see me clearly. And hopefully you can hear me okay. It's Mike Nixon from In Confidence Licensing Consultants.
Great, thanks, Mike. Over to you, Debbie, for agenda item 2.
Thank you. Under agenda item 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Agenda item 3, there are no exempt items. Agenda item 4, there are no late items. Agenda item 5, could I ask members to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests?
None from myself.
No.
Thank you. That's it, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie. So on to agenda item number 6, which is application for the grant of a premises license for Afro Chops Limited, 12 Thorpe Street, Leeds, LS10 4EZ. Can I please now just ask the legal advisor to outline today's procedure for the hearing, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The position this afternoon is that no party objecting to the application attends at the meeting. The procedure in such an application is that the applicant or the applicant's representative address the committee. The committee may then ask questions of the applicant, and following that, the applicant has the chance to respond to anything arising and to sum up should they wish to do so. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what is appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. Those objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In relation to time limits, the licensing regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations. The same applies to each party. The usual time limit for this subcommittee is 15 minutes per party. The applicant may choose to split that time and reserve some of it to respond to any matters arising, in this case, perhaps from questions. Chair, could I ask, does the subcommittee want to impose a time limit? And if so, how long?
I guess I think it's 15 minutes, more than enough for the applicant.
Yes, that'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to split that time into a presentation and then to come back with any afterthoughts?
Yes, that sounds fine. Thank you.
Okay, so we split 10 minutes and 5 minutes. Would that be okay?
That sounds perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. And following the presentation, the subcommittee members may wish to ask questions of the applicant. The time for questions to be asked and to be answered is in addition to the time limits set for presentations. And parties may ask permission to call witnesses. Can I perhaps ask Mr. Nixon if you do have any witnesses that you want to call?
No, I'd just like Mr. Rossitello to have a chance to speak as well.
All of the documents that have been submitted previously have been circulated to the subcommittee in advance. Can I check that everyone has a pack of 54 pages? And perhaps if you don't have that pack of 54 pages, perhaps unmute and let me know. Thank you. It would be helpful when addressing the subcommittee if you are referring to documents to identify perhaps by page number which document you refer to. Additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of all of the parties. Can I ask, do you have any additional documents that you may want the subcommittee to consider, Mr. Nixon?
No, there are no further documents.
Thank you. Please note your presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee. There's no further right to sum up your case, and you do need to make sure you've said everything you wish to say and have taken into account during the presentation. After the applicant has made their presentation and after questions have been considered, the members will consider whether they have enough information to make the decision. Once this point is reached, members of the committee will go into a private session. If members do have additional questions to ask, they will return to the meeting in order to ask those questions. They will then return to private session to make their decision. Could I ask that the applicant and his representative remain in the meeting until they are asked to leave? All parties will be informed once the hearing has ended and will be informed of the decision within 5 working days of today. Can I ask, are there any representations about the procedure the subcommittee proposes to follow before we do start the hearing? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Philip. Over to you, Matthew, if you want to outline the case for us today, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this application is in relation to the grant of a new premises licence, which is in respect of Afro Chops Limited, and situated at 12 Thorpe Street, Leeds, LS10. The application explains that the premises operates as a restaurant with takeaway service, specialising in African cuisine, and proposes a single licensable activity, sale by retail of alcohol. The licence history for these premises is available at point 2 of the report, which explains the premises were known previously as Sharky's Fish and Chip Shop and licensed for the sale of alcohol and late night refreshment. That licence was surrendered in February 2014. And from that point, licensable activities at the premises have no longer been authorised. The application being considered today is made for the sale by retail of alcohol Monday to Sunday from 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. And the opening times of the premises will be Monday to Sunday from 4 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. A redacted copy of the application is available at Appendix A on page 11 of the report, which includes the measures the applicant is willing to take to promote the licensing objectives starting from the bottom of page 20. So with regards to the responsible authorities, a representation has been received from West Yorkshire Police, which suggests additional measures to uphold the crime prevention objective. These measures have been agreed with the applicant, and a copy of the representation and the agreement can be seen at Appendix C on page 31 of the report. The application has also received representations from local residents that originally totaled 16 objections. However, following publication of the agenda, one of those residents has asked for their representation to be withdrawn, which leaves a single representation in an email format, and the 14 representations that are presented as signed letter templates. Redacted copies of these representations are available in the agenda pack on page 37 at Appendix D. And then, finally, to assist members with the existing pattern of licensed premises in the surrounding area, details of a single off-licensed premises and their hours is available on page 53 at Appendix C. And that's an outline of the application, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. So we'll go to the applicant, please, if you want to present your case.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Mike Nixon from In Confidence Licensing Consultants, here today with Mr. Ossitello, who, through his company Afro Chops Limited, has applied for a new premises license, as we've heard, for the restaurant and takeaway at 12 Thorpe Street. Afro Chops has been at this property for 3 years, and until now, anyone wanting to consume alcohol within those premises or to take it home with their meal has had to nip next door to the convenience store. The grant of this license could therefore have an impact on the supplies of alcohol at the shop next door, something that has caused upset to that shop owner, who indicated that he would be objecting to this application. There are a number of submitted representations that have caused your discretion to be engaged at this hearing. Not one of them is from the chap who owns the shop next door. Had he objected, this could have been seen as vexatious, as it could be viewed as a business rivalry. Although his is a convenience store and Afro Chops is a restaurant, of course. Sharon Ridyard, who has submitted a representation, lives above Afro Chops, and her representation is on page 37. I understand that her daughter works in the shop next door. I understand too that she has not once ever complained to Afro Chops, contrary to what she says in her letter. The other written representations are identical. They are effectively like a petition. There are certain common rules surrounding the acceptance of a petition. Where was that person when they were invited to sign the letter of opposition? Were they on their doorstep? That's largely unacceptable. Were they in the shop next door? Who wrote the letter for people to sign, and who then sent them all into the council? We don't know the answers to these questions. There is only one supplier of alcohol in this area, the shop next door. Page 29 of the agenda bundle shows this to be the case. There's a map there. This is contrary to the Commons letter signed by the 15 objectors, which suggests that the area is heavily populated with licensed premises. That letter also talks generally about problems in the area with crime and nuisance associated with alcohol supply. But any such problems are nothing to do with Afro Chops. The application we've submitted is consistent with industry best practice, the Section 182 guidance, and your statement of licensing policy. It's for the supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, but always as an accompaniment to food, and only between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. We've agreed some extra conditions with the police, shown on page 32, which are mostly a rewording of what we'd already offered. So there are now no representations from any of your responsible authorities. They've recognised that any potential risk of granting this licence has been fully met by the numerous conditions that we've offered in the operating schedule. And I'll be very happy to go through any of these conditions if you wish me to. There are around 40 measurable and enforceable conditions contained in this application, as well as the mandatory conditions, all there to protect and promote the licensing objectives. Mr. Ossitello can't be judged until he's begun trading under the strict terms of a premises license. I would respectfully invite you to question the validity of the submitted representations and to invite objectors to justify their opposition to our application, as we've not been presented with any evidence that should affect this application. While I'm happy to go through the fine detail of the application if you wish, I'm aware of the time limits, but otherwise, can I introduce Mr. Ossitello to tell you a little bit more about AfroChops and to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mike. I'll be honest with you guys, it came as a bit of a surprise when I heard there were 15 objectors, because it's a very, very small business, and don't get me wrong, Middleton is a bit of it's a different area, considering the kind of cuisine I've taken there. So it's a bit of a plunge for me, taking Afro-Caribbean food to that kind of area. But I thought that was what that place needed. And at the beginning, it was very tough for me in a new area. You know, I was trying to set up my own business. But in 3 years, I feel like there's a bit of stability now. I know some of the locals, they come into the shop, and I just thought this was the natural next step for my business, especially since the pandemic, to try, right? Because I had customers come in and they're like Mike said earlier in his presentation, oh, we want some Guinness or something with our meal, that kind of thing. And I've always told them, oh, I don't have a license. I'm mainly focusing on the food. It's like a food-led business. Like, I want this food to speak for itself. I'm not too interested in the alcohol. I wasn't too interested in the alcohol side of things, but it was just more for my customers. I thought, right, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to apply for this alcohol license. And then when I made this application, when I put the blue notice up, my landlord, he called me into the shop because my lease is due for renewal in September. He said to me, obviously the landlord owns the shop next door and he owns the takeaway. He says that he has a problem with that. I said it to my face. He wasn't discreet about it. He said it to my face. He has a problem with it. I said, so I thought he was talking about the lease. It says, no, I'm not allowed to sell alcohol next door. So I said, why? So obviously alarm bells ringing. I knew there was going to be a problem. So I didn't want to argue with him because he's the landlord ultimately and his decision stands. And obviously I've not worked hard for 3 years for me to then walk away from that shop and start somewhere else. Do you understand what I mean? So the agreement that was kind of made between myself and the landlord was to go away and come up with a list of the alcohol the type of alcohol I was going to be selling in my shop. And I think there were about 10 drinks. So it's not like crates of Stella and Carling. That's not my market at all. I just want to sell like cocktails, Guinness, like traditional Afro-Caribbean kind of drinks for my customers solely. So obviously with the 15 objections, I feel like there's something to do with the landlord next door. Definitely something to do with it's too dodgy. Something is going on. And Mike told me about the petition. I was like, petition? Like, I was just, lost for words, really. So here we are today. Like Mike said, we need to know who these people are. He's mentioned the lady upstairs. Now, that lady, a daughter works next door. The daughter's never been to my shop. Don't get me wrong. I see you on a day-to-day basis. I say, hi, you okay? But, when I'm not saying when you don't feel accepted in an area, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm just going about my business, trying to make ends meet, trying to create opportunities for people, trying to just, do the best I can, really. So it just feels like something is going on. And that's why we have 15 objectors. And it's so strange. And obviously, I'm so happy that the police were willing to work with us. They gave me a list of, criteria to follow to make sure we use that license properly, which I'm more than happy you know, to abide with. Like the CCTV, I've already put that in place. I have obviously the Challenge 25 policy, everything like that. Everything is in place now, ready, you know, for me to get this license and to trade. Obviously, to get the lease, that's a different question. I might well get this license and my lease will be terminated in September. So, you know, I just feel like I'm a bit, I feel I've been cornered in really. So yeah, just fingers crossed. I'm just open really. And if I get the license, which I'll be very pleased, because then obviously with lockdown gradually being lifted, customers can come to the shop. Oh, you can now have a drink with your meal, which, you know, we all go out for food. You know, you have that better feeling when you have a drink with your meal. That whole experience, it's really not, I wouldn't be selling crates of alcohol or anything like that. That's not my target audience. So I was really surprised and disappointed in the people that have like raised these petitions and objections. And yeah, so I think that's all I have to say for now, but I'm shocked really.
Okay, thank you. Is that finished with regards to the presenting the case from the applicant?
It is largely. I mean, I might have saved something just for summing up if there've been any objectors here, but and to be able to respond to them. But we're quite happy to answer any questions if you've got, sir.
Okay, I think we'll also have time maybe at the end if you want to sum up after questions. Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Flynn?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. A couple of things. I just wondered whether or not you'd had any consultation with the neighbours in the area. We were looking at the location of the shop, and it is in a residential area. And I think, as Mike said earlier, there are no other, or very few, licensed premises around. It's just sort of nice sometimes when proprietors do ask their local neighbours as to, you know, what the reactions would be. And you mentioned that you're going to sell a restricted number of drinks. I just wonder if you could give us a little bit more information on the kind of drinks that you intend to serve.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we're looking to do cocktails, like Guinness punch, like some African beers. You have like Star, you have like palm wine. You know, it's not like the general Carlsberg, and I'm not trying to sell crates of alcohol, even though I think that's what made the landlord said to me, yeah, he's a threat. In fact, what he said to me, he goes, I'm trying to make money to be able to pay your rent, like, so we can have this relationship long term. He goes, if you sell alcohol next door, when it comes to me, if he ever comes to me selling my property, the value will decrease because you sell alcohol next door. So yeah, it's quite clear, like the threat again, you know. But yeah, I could provide you with a full list of what I sent to him. The only mistake I made was I should have put in an email. Yeah, I should have sent him that list in an email. Then I could have just copied you guys. But I wrote it out, and I took it to the shop. And since then, I've not heard anything. So yeah, it's not like your usual Carlsberg, Strongbow, and all those things. Certainly won't be crates. Like Mike said, it's just drinks to accompany food.
Okay. Do you have any more, Councillor Flynn?
Just on the consultation bit, were there any consultation with any of the neighbours at all, the residents living there, not so much the shop, but the residents?
Oh, the residents. To be honest, like I said, initially, like 3 years ago, it was a bit, I've not really had any problems to say because I'm very easygoing. I just go to the shop, you know, I know what Middleton is, you know, go in, go out. But now, not really had any confrontation, but I think that's kind of the behavior in that kind of area. They might smile to your face, but there's another agenda behind your back, which I'm aware of.
If I can just stop you, I think Councillor Flynn was asking more about consultation, not confrontation.
Oh, I thought you said confrontation. Sorry.
No, consultation.
Sorry.
Accent maybe, yeah.
So consultation in what sense?
Has any consultation taken place with neighbours or with other residents in the local area that you're applying for a license and what your intentions were?
No, because I'll be honest with you, my customer base is in the, yeah, I get the kids that come in, they buy chips. You know, some of the locals do pop in, but I'm finding that most of my customer base, because that area, they just want like donut meat, you know, cheap food, which I understand. But like I said at the beginning of my talk, is trying to, you know, where I am, luckily enough, I don't know if you're familiar with Middleton, you're quite close to like have customer base like Tingley, you know, really, really nice. I'm surrounded by really nice areas who appreciate good food. You know, you can go on Google, you can have a look at my reviews, Google, TripAdvisor, everywhere, Just Eat, all the reviews are glowing on the food. So that's what I'm trying to, you know.
So I guess the answer is no to your question,
yeah,
Councillor Flynn.
yeah.
Do you have any other questions, Councillor Flynn?
Just to say, I did check your TripAdvisor reviews, Titty. So.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome for some food anytime.
Councillor Marshall Katung.
Yes, thank you, Titi, for taking us through what you do. The only question I was going to ask: how many people can your shop take?
It's 16 at once.
At once, okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more? No. A few questions from myself. Have you any previous experience for licensed premises?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. And you're the DPS. Is that training that you've been on and you've gone and?
Yeah. I've done the course. I've done the exam. Yeah, I've got my personal license. Yeah.
Okay.
Up to date.
And just for Matthew, in your sort of presentation of the case, you put that one representation has been removed. Just confirm, is it just one that's been removed and the 14 are still there?
Yeah, that's right. So the ones that are available in the agenda, it is just the one, and it's one of the templates which seems to have been sent in. There's one individual one which is by email, and then the rest of them which, you know, they've been given a name and a signature put to them.
Yeah, right. Okay, great. From the representation, albeit most of them are the same letter signed by different people, there's mention about antisocial behaviour and the police aware of the antisocial behaviour. In your own sort of, are you aware of anything of this nature in the area? Have you witnessed antisocial behaviour and the police having to attend?
I can see, as like I said, Middleton is quite rough. You see people like, I've seen like police cars like here and there, you know, but that's in any area. You see police cars here and there. So I won't say I've like, well, witnessed anything per se, like in the vicinity of my shop.
Have you witnessed anything in and around the convenience store next door that sells alcohol? Any sort of issues of an antisocial behaviour or licensing issues there?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No?
I think the shop next door is very well run. It has a community vibe, which obviously that's what I aspire to. I want people, you know, I don't want to have a shop in Middleton to be catering for people in Tingley. I want to have a shop in Middleton for the locals to come in. That's why, I've made my menu a bit more diverse. I'm now selling burgers. I'm now selling, things I didn't sell initially just to care for the local, community. But no, in terms of, to answer your question, not really. Everything seems, from the naked eye, from when I'm there, usually between 3 and by close 10:30, not really any issues. Obviously, I know there might be issues that you can't see, things going on, but everyone seems fine.
You mentioned the landlord and also the owner of the convenience store, are they the same person?
Yeah, sisters. Yeah, same
Yeah.
person.
Right. Okay. And your clientele that you are expecting once obviously restrictions are eased, and your clientele that you had before March 2020, are they local? You sort of suggest that there aren't local people. So is it that they're driving to your restaurant, or is it local people walking?
So local people working, that's 30%.
Local people walking, yeah.
It's 30%. 30, 30, yeah. Yeah. I have some locals, you know, but yeah, again, you have to think of the nature of the food, the price of the food, all those factors have to come in, you know.
Okay.
Nothing to take away from the locals. But yeah, I'll say 30%.
Okay.
But
And
that's improved over the years.
And do you do takeaways as well?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
What percentage takeaway to sort of restaurant on a normal sort of year, I guess?
I'll probably say deliveries 65, eating 35. Or
Okay.
yeah, if it, some days it just varies. Like some days you might just have loads of people coming in, and yeah, it just varies, But on a weekend, yeah, have people coming in to sit in, because people want to sit in and people want to have that experience.
And the supply of alcohol is for on use on site only. It's not off sales, is it? Well,
No. Yeah.
It is off sales.
It's off sales as well, is it?
Yeah.
But it will always be dependent on food, whether it's an on consumption or off sales.
Okay, so if people are purchasing food for takeaway, they'll be able to purchase alcohol with that.
Yeah, if I can step in there as well. A number of the extra conditions that we've got with the police from page 32, they like to have a lot more conditions to do with deliveries, just in case the business delivers that, develops that in the future. So there's lots of conditions now to do with checking on age and the behaviour of delivery drivers and what have you.
Okay, so the answer to the question is that there will be the sale of alcohol off sales with food.
Always, whether it's on consumption or off sales, it's always dependent on food. There will be no sales of alcohol without food.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm done on the questions. Members, have you got any more that you'd like to come back on?
No more questions. Thanks, Chairman.
No. I guess then, Mr. Nixon, you have some time to sum up.
Just a couple of minutes, if I may, sir. The application has been supported by each of your responsible authorities, including the police. They've recognised the stringent set of conditions that will be attached to the licence, which fully meet all the risks to the licensing objectives. My client doesn't have to prove a need for the licence. Thorpe Street is not within a cumulative impact area, so there's a legal presumption in favour of granting the licence. For a representation to be valid, it must be relevant, it can't be vexatious, and it must be about the likely effect of licensable activity on the licensing objectives. Likely is defined as probable. It's for the objectors to provide evidence of this probable effect, evidence of risks to the objectives that have been missed by the authorities. Your decision today, of course, is not a binary one of refuse or grant. You could choose to grant the licence with modifications to the conditions, but your decision must be proportionate and evidence-based, as we've heard already. I don't believe we've heard any evidence that can affect the grant of this application. I believe you should put your trust in my client, and I would ask you to grant the licence today, please.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. So I guess unless we have nothing more, the subcommittee will now move into a private session where we will deliberate on the application. Could I ask that all parties, including the applicant and the representative and the licensing officer, remain available should the subcommittee have any additional questions? If there are any additional questions, you'll be invited back into the meeting room by the clerk. Over to you, Debbie.
Natasha, do you want to move us into the private session, please?
everybody
I
present?
think we're all back in now. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Okay. Subcommittee have deliberated, and as suggested at the beginning of the meeting, the decision will be informed within 5 working days. Can I just thank everybody for your attendance here today, and have a pleasant evening.